Hello English learners. How are you? Welcome to Progressive English Learning. Remember, learning English is all about practice and using it in real life. Every small effort you make today brings you closer to confidence and fluency. So stay motivated, keep practicing, and enjoy the journey of learning. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to my channel, Progressive English Learning, and press the bell icon so you never miss a lesson. Also, please like this video, share it with your friends, and leave your comments. Your support means a lot. Now, in today's video, we'll focus on a very practical and fun topic: food and shopping. You'll learn dialogues for ordering food at restaurants or cafes, buying items in shops or markets, asking for prices, describing your preferences, and giving feedback. These are situations you face every day, so after this lesson you'll feel more confident speaking English in real-life shopping and food scenarios. On a bright morning, I walked to the local market to buy fresh vegetables, and the smell of ripe tomatoes filled the air as sellers arranged them neatly on wooden tables, while nearby a woman offered me a basket of shiny green cucumbers that looked crisp and inviting, and the sound of bargaining voices mixed with the clinking of coins created a lively rhythm, making the whole place feel alive with energy as I picked up a bundle of fresh spinach that still had drops of water on its leaves, and the vendor smiled warmly as he packed them carefully into a brown paper bag, while just beside him another stall displayed piles of onions and garlic that gave off a sharp but comforting aroma, reminding me of the meals my family enjoyed at home, and children ran between the stalls laughing as their parents chose mangoes that glowed like golden sunlight, while a shopkeeper sliced open one to show its sweet orange flesh, offering small pieces to taste, and the flavor was rich and juicy, making me think of summer afternoons. And as I moved further, I saw baskets of bright red chilies hanging like decorations that added a splash of color to the scene, while on the other side a young man arranged carrots in perfect rows that looked almost too beautiful to eat, and nearby a seller displayed shiny eggplants whose purple skins reflected the morning light, and the market seemed like a painting full of natural colors, with the scent of herbs like coriander and mint spreading freshness through the air, while people carried cloth bags filled with their daily groceries, chatting about recipes and prices, and I heard someone asking for the best quality rice while another negotiated for fresh fish that was still lying on beds of ice, and the fishmonger lifted one proudly, showing its clear eyes as proof of freshness, while a group of women discussed which lentils would make the best soup, comparing the yellow, red, and green varieties displayed in large open sacks. And nearby a spice seller opened a jar of turmeric powder that shone like golden dust in the sunlight, filling the air with an earthy fragrance, while cinnamon sticks, black pepper, and cardamom pods rested beside it, turning the corner into a treasure chest of flavor. And as I watched, a baker from a small shop carried out trays of warm bread, and the soft smell made my stomach growl with hunger, while people quickly gathered to buy loaves before they sold out, and next to the bread stall stood a small dairy counter where milk bottles clinked together and fresh cheese was wrapped in white paper, while butter and yogurt sat neatly in chilled containers, making it clear how much variety the market offered in one place. And further down I found a fruit section where bananas hung in long clusters, apples shone with a waxy glow, and pineapples stood tall with spiky crowns, while a child pointed excitedly at strawberries arranged in a heart-shaped basket, and the fruit seller laughed as he gave her one to taste, creating a sweet memory in that moment. And the sight of people selecting food with such care showed how shopping for meals was not just about necessity but also about joy, tradition, and family, and I realized how each choice carried stories of taste, health, and togetherness. While the market itself became more than a place to buy things, it was a gathering of life, color, and human connection, where food carried not only flavor but also meaning, and as I carried my own bag filled with vegetables, fruits, and bread, I felt grateful for the simple act of shopping, knowing that each item would later turn into a dish that could bring smiles to the table, and with every step I took toward home, the thought of cooking those fresh ingredients filled me with anticipation, reminding me how food and shopping are deeply tied to the rhythm of daily life, and how a simple market trip can become a journey full of sights, smells, and flavors that teach us to appreciate what we have, to value the effort behind every item, and to find happiness in the little moments of choosing, tasting, and sharing. When I reached home, I placed the bags on the kitchen counter and started unpacking each item carefully, admiring the bright colors of the vegetables as if they were small treasures collected from a journey, and I washed the spinach leaves under running water, watching the dust and soil flow away as the fresh green shone even brighter, while the tomatoes rolled gently in the bowl, ready to be sliced for a salad, and I peeled the cucumbers, noticing the crisp sound with every cut, imagining how refreshing they would taste with a pinch of salt and a squeeze of lemon, and I arranged the onions and garlic in a basket near the stove, knowing they would become the base of many meals, adding both flavor and warmth to the house, and I placed the mangoes carefully on the dining table, their sweet fragrance filling the room like a natural perfume, while the bananas hung on a stand, waiting for someone to pick one up as a quick snack, and I opened the paper bag of bread, tearing a piece to enjoy with a bit of butter that melted smoothly, giving me comfort with each bite, and I poured a glass of cold milk from the dairy bottle, its creamy taste reminding me of childhood mornings, and I realized how every product I had bought was not just food but also a piece of daily happiness, and I decided to prepare a simple lunch with rice, lentils, and vegetables, starting by washing the grains of rice that slipped through my fingers like tiny pearls, while the lentils soaked in water, turning soft and ready to cook, and I chopped carrots, beans, and eggplants, placing them in a pan with a little oil, where the sizzling sound filled the kitchen with life, and the golden turmeric powder I had bought at the market colored the vegetables beautifully, making them look even more delicious. And I sprinkled cumin seeds that crackled in the heat, spreading an earthy aroma through the house, while coriander leaves waited to be added at the very end as a garnish, and as the food cooked slowly, I thought about how shopping connects to cooking, because the choices made at the market shape the meals we share later, and I imagined families across the city preparing dishes with the same ingredients, creating different flavors, but all tied together by the act of buying and cooking, and I realized that food and shopping are not separate tasks but part of a continuous cycle of life, where markets provide the ingredients and kitchens turn them into nourishment, joy, and comfort, and I thought about how each dish tells a story of tradition, culture, and care, because the rice and lentils were not just grains but reminders of home, while the spices carried memories of festivals and gatherings, and even the simplest cucumber salad could become special when shared with someone, and I looked at the dining table where the fruits waited like bright decorations, reminding me that shopping is also about planning ahead, ensuring that there is always something fresh to eat, and as I tasted the food to check the salt, I smiled because everything came together perfectly, proving how the effort of walking through the busy market had turned into a warm meal at home, and I felt the connection between the people who sold the food, the hands that carried it, and the family that would enjoy it, making me see shopping not only as a chore but as a thread that ties people together through food and daily life. After lunch, I decided to plan for the evening snack and dinner, thinking about how the fresh fruits could be used creatively, so I sliced the mangoes and arranged them in a small bowl with a sprinkle of sugar and a few drops of lemon juice, while the bananas were cut into thin slices to be added later into a yogurt parfait that I wanted to prepare, And I realized that planning meals is an important part of shopping because it helps use everything efficiently and reduces waste. And as I opened the spice cabinet, I noticed that the turmeric, cumin, and cardamom I had bought were running low, reminding me that shopping is also about maintaining essentials, and I made a mental note to pick up more next time, while checking the rice and lentils to ensure there was enough for the week. And I started preparing a small salad with cucumbers, tomatoes, and fresh coriander leaves, adding a dash of salt and olive oil, and the simple combination made a refreshing side dish that could be eaten alone or with a meal. And while chopping vegetables, I reflected on how every ingredient has its role, and even small touches like fresh herbs make a big difference in taste and presentation. And I remembered how the market offered so many options, from the basic staples to special items like berries and exotic fruits, which made cooking more exciting and gave me room to experiment. And later in the afternoon, I decided to bake a small loaf of bread using the fresh dough I had bought, kneading it carefully while enjoying the soft texture under my fingers, and placing it in the oven while setting a timer to ensure it baked perfectly. And as the smell of baking bread spread through the kitchen, I felt the satisfaction that comes from turning raw ingredients into something nourishing and comforting. While I prepared a cup of tea with milk and a pinch of sugar, sipping it slowly as I watched the sunlight fall across the dining table, highlighting the colors of fruits and vegetables. And I thought about how food connects us to our senses, bringing visual pleasure, aroma, taste, and even sound into daily life. And as the bread finished baking, I brushed it with a little butter, watching it melt into the warm crust, making it ready to eat. And I sliced a piece to enjoy with some cheese I had bought at the dairy, while the rest was wrapped and stored for later, showing how shopping and storing food properly helps keep meals convenient and tasty. And I realized that the act of buying, cooking, and storing is a continuous chain, where each step depends on the previous one, and when done thoughtfully, it brings both satisfaction and efficiency. And as the evening approached, I started thinking about tomorrow's shopping list, noting what vegetables were finishing, which fruits were ripe, and which staples needed refilling, while also remembering that seasonal items often taste better and are more affordable. And I decided that planning with care, buying fresh, and preparing food at home not only saves money but also ensures health and variety in the diet, making every market visit and every choice meaningful. And I felt grateful for the simple joy of selecting, preparing, and sharing food, knowing that these everyday actions are part of a larger rhythm of life that combines nourishment, creativity, and connection. The next morning, I woke up early with a plan to visit the grocery store before it became crowded, and the fresh air on the street made the walk pleasant, while small shops along the way displayed fruits and vegetables that glistened under the morning sun. And I noticed the apples were particularly shiny, with deep red hues that made them look almost too good to eat, while the oranges were stacked in pyramids, their citrus aroma drifting across the sidewalk. And I stopped at a stall to pick a few bunches of fresh coriander and mint, knowing that these herbs would add both flavor and freshness to the dishes I wanted to cook. And I passed a bakery where the smell of freshly baked croissants and bread wafted out, making me pause and smile as I watched people lining up to buy warm pastries. And the sight reminded me that shopping is not only about essentials but also about small treats that bring happiness. And as I continued, I reached the dairy section, where milk, yogurt, and peanut were neatly arranged, and I picked a few bottles of milk and a block of peanut for my lunch recipes, while the seller handed them over with a cheerful greeting, showing the friendly side of local markets. And I noticed a small pile of eggs next to the milk, some brown and some white, and I selected a dozen carefully, checking that none were cracked, while children in the market watched colorful fruits and candies with excitement, making the atmosphere lively and joyful. and I moved to a spice store where cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg were displayed in jars, the scents mixing together to create a warm and inviting aroma, and I picked small quantities of each, thinking about how adding just a pinch could transform a dish completely, and nearby, a vendor displayed fresh pulses like chickpeas and kidney beans in open sacks, and I carefully scooped some into a paper bag, knowing they would form the base for several meals, while observing how each seller had arranged their goods to look appealing, from neatly stacked vegetables to jars of bright spices, and I realized that shopping is also an art, where presentation, freshness, and variety influence decisions, and as I checked my basket, I added a few tomatoes, carrots, and green beans, thinking about the dishes I could make over the next few days, while also picking a few ripe bananas and a small basket of strawberries for a sweet snack, and as I walked toward the checkout, I noticed the friendly interactions between sellers and customers, people asking for recommendations, comparing prices, and exchanging recipes. Showing that shopping is more than a transaction, it is a place for learning, sharing, and connecting over food, and when I finally returned home with my purchases, I unpacked everything, arranging vegetables in bowls, fruits on the table, and spices neatly in the kitchen shelf, while thinking about the meals I would prepare, like a fresh vegetable curry with rice, a fruit salad for dessert, and a yogurt parfait with strawberries and bananas, and the act of planning, choosing, and preparing gave me a sense of satisfaction, showing that careful shopping and thoughtful cooking bring not only nourishment but also joy, creativity, and a deeper appreciation for the food we eat every day. In the afternoon, I decided to try a new recipe using the fresh vegetables I had bought, so I washed and chopped bell peppers, zucchini, and carrots, placing them in a large bowl while thinking about how their colors and textures would complement each other, and I heated a pan with a little olive oil, letting it sizzle gently before adding the chopped vegetables, and as they cooked, I sprinkled a pinch of salt, black pepper, and a little paprika, noticing how the aroma started to fill the kitchen and made it feel warm and inviting, while I stirred the vegetables slowly, ensuring they cooked evenly without losing their crunch, and I realized that cooking with fresh ingredients not only improves taste but also makes meals more enjoyable and visually appealing, and after the vegetables were ready, I prepared a simple sauce using tomatoes and garlic I had bought, simmering it gently while watching the rich red color deepen, and I combined the sauce with the vegetables, mixing carefully to coat every piece, while the smell of garlic, herbs, and cooked vegetables created a comforting atmosphere, and I thought about how different ingredients interact, how a little spice or a fresh herb can change a dish entirely, and how planning shopping carefully ensures I have everything I need to experiment with flavors, and I set the table with a simple salad of cucumber, tomatoes, and coriander leaves on the side, drizzling a little olive oil and lemon juice over it, and I poured a glass of cold milk from the fresh bottles I had bought, which complemented the meal perfectly, and as I sat down to eat, I felt satisfied knowing that all the ingredients came from the local market, purchased with care, and transformed into a meal that was both healthy and delicious, while I savored every bite, appreciating the sweetness of the carrots, the softness of the peppers, and the freshness of the herbs, and after finishing lunch, I cleaned the kitchen, storing leftover vegetables in containers to keep them fresh, and placing fruits in a basket on the counter where they would be easy to grab as a quick snack, and I thought about how shopping, cooking, and storing food are all connected steps that, when done thoughtfully, make daily life smoother, healthier, and more enjoyable, and later in the evening, I planned a small dessert using the strawberries and bananas, slicing them neatly and layering them with yogurt and a drizzle of honey to make a simple parfait, while the colorful layers looked appealing and promised a sweet ending to the day, and I realized that even small acts like chopping, mixing, and arranging ingredients are part of the larger experience of enjoying food, where the time spent selecting fresh items at the market, preparing them carefully, and finally tasting the results all come together to create satisfaction, pleasure, and a sense of accomplishment, showing that food and shopping are not just daily chores but activities that bring learning, creativity, and a connection to everyday life. The following morning, I woke up with the intention of preparing a hearty breakfast using some of the fresh groceries I had bought, so I started by cracking eggs into a bowl and whisking them gently, adding a pinch of salt and black pepper, while I chopped tomatoes, onions, and green peppers to mix in, and I heated a non-stick pan with a little butter, letting it melt slowly before pouring the egg mixture, watching it sizzle and rise, filling the kitchen with a warm, inviting aroma, and as I flipped the omelette carefully, I thought about how small details like freshness of vegetables and timing of cooking make a big difference in flavor and texture, while I toasted slices of bread bought from the bakery yesterday, spreading butter that melted perfectly over the warm surface, and I prepared a small fruit bowl with sliced bananas, mangoes, and strawberries, adding a few drops of honey to enhance the natural sweetness, and I poured a cup of milk to accompany the meal, feeling satisfied with the colorful and balanced breakfast, and while eating, I planned my next shopping trip, considering which items were running low, like rice, lentils, and some seasonal vegetables, and I remembered that fresh markets often have special deals in the mornings, so it was always best to shop early. And after breakfast, I washed the dishes and stored leftovers carefully, keeping everything organized to make cooking easier later, and then I thought about experimenting with a new recipe for lunch. Deciding to make a vegetable stir-fry with the eggplants, carrots, and bell peppers I had recently purchased, while adding spices like cumin, turmeric, and coriander to enhance flavor, and I prepared the ingredients methodically, slicing, dicing, and arranging them in separate bowls, appreciating how the process of preparing food is as enjoyable as eating it, while the colorful vegetables and aromatic spices created a lively scene on the kitchen counter. And I realized that shopping for food not only provides ingredients but also inspires creativity in the kitchen, making cooking a form of art and expression. And when I finally cooked the stir-fry, combining all vegetables with the spices and a dash of olive oil, the sizzling sound and aroma filled the air, creating a sense of accomplishment, and I plated the food beautifully, adding fresh coriander leaves on top, and paired it with steamed rice, making a wholesome meal that was visually appealing and delicious, and as I sat down to eat, I felt gratitude for the market, the sellers, and the journey from selecting fresh ingredients to preparing a nourishing meal, understanding that thoughtful shopping, careful preparation, and enjoyment of food form a continuous cycle that brings health, satisfaction, and happiness into daily life. In the afternoon, I decided to prepare a light snack using some of the fresh fruits and vegetables I had bought, so I started by washing cucumbers and slicing them into thin rounds, arranging them neatly on a plate, and then I cut mangoes and strawberries into small pieces to make a colorful fruit salad, adding a drizzle of honey and a few drops of lemon juice to enhance the flavors, and as I mixed the fruits gently, I noticed how the bright colors and natural sweetness made the dish visually appealing and inviting, while the fresh aroma of the mangoes filled the kitchen, making it feel lively and cheerful, and I poured a glass of cold milk to enjoy alongside the snack, appreciating how simple ingredients from the market could be transformed into something fresh and delicious, and while eating, I thought about tomorrow's shopping list, checking which vegetables were finishing and which fruits were ripening, realizing that careful planning ensures that nothing goes to waste and that meals remain varied and nutritious, and I washed the dishes and stored leftover fruits in small containers to keep them fresh. While placing vegetables in the refrigerator to preserve their crunch, and I noticed how much the small effort of organizing groceries impacted daily life, making cooking easier and meals more enjoyable. And later, I decided to try baking a small batch of cookies using some butter, sugar, and eggs I had bought, mixing the dough carefully and adding chocolate chips to make them richer and tastier, while the smell of baking soon filled the kitchen, creating a warm, sweet atmosphere. And I realized that shopping for food not only provides nourishment but also opportunities to explore creativity, try new recipes, and enjoy the process of cooking. And when the cookies were ready, I arranged them on a plate and poured a cup of milk, sitting down to enjoy the treat and feeling a sense of satisfaction at turning raw ingredients into something delightful. And I thought about how markets and groceries are connected to everyday life, offering both essentials and inspiration, and how each step, from selecting fresh items, planning meals, cooking, and storing leftovers, creates a rhythm of daily living that nourishes the body, stimulates the mind, and brings small joys that make each day feel complete. And as evening approached, I prepared a simple dinner of rice, lentils, and sautéed vegetables, seasoning them with fresh herbs and spices, while arranging a small plate of sliced fruits for dessert, appreciating how the cycle of shopping, cooking, and enjoying food provides structure, satisfaction, and happiness in the routine of life. The next morning, I woke up early and decided to make a smoothie using the fresh fruits I had bought, so I peeled bananas, cut mangoes, and added a handful of strawberries into the blender, pouring in some cold milk and a spoonful of honey, and as I blended the mixture, the sweet aroma filled the kitchen, making it feel lively and fresh, while I washed a few cucumbers and carrots to prepare a small salad to go with breakfast, arranging them neatly on a plate and sprinkling a little salt and lemon juice over the cucumbers, and a dash of olive oil over the carrots, creating a simple yet colorful meal. And as I poured the smoothie into a glass, its creamy texture and vibrant color made it appealing, reminding me how fresh fruits from the market can be transformed into nutritious and delicious drinks. And while sipping it, I thought about the importance of variety in diet and how shopping for fresh produce allows me to include different flavors, colors, and nutrients in every meal. And after finishing breakfast, I cleaned the kitchen and stored leftover fruits and vegetables in airtight containers to keep them fresh for the next few days, while noting which items were running low, like rice, lentils, and fresh herbs. And I made a small plan for lunch, deciding to cook a vegetable curry with eggplants, green beans, and carrots, flavor it with cumin, turmeric, and coriander, and I chopped the vegetables carefully, noticing the fresh smell and crisp texture as I prepared them. While heating oil in a pan and letting the spices sizzle and release their aroma, filling the kitchen with warmth and inviting scents, and I thought about how shopping, cooking, and storing ingredients form a continuous cycle, where careful selection of fresh items makes cooking more enjoyable, while proper preparation and seasoning ensure meals are both tasty and healthy. And as the curry simmered, I cooked rice and prepared a small side of chopped tomatoes and cucumbers with fresh coriander, drizzling a little lemon juice to make a refreshing salad. And when everything was ready, I served the food on plates, arranging it neatly, and the bright colors of the vegetables made the meal inviting and appetizing, while the aroma of spices and herbs enhanced the dining experience. And as I sat down to eat, I felt satisfied that all the fresh ingredients I had purchased had turned into a wholesome, nourishing, and delicious lunch, reminding me how food and shopping are closely connected, not only providing sustenance but also opportunities to explore flavors, try new recipes, and enjoy the simple pleasures of preparing and sharing meals at home. Later in the afternoon, I decided to prepare a small snack for myself using some of the fresh fruits and vegetables I had bought earlier, so I washed and sliced cucumbers and carrots into thin sticks, arranging them neatly on a plate, while I cut mangoes and strawberries into small cubes to make a fresh fruit bowl, adding a drizzle of honey and a squeeze of lemon to enhance the natural sweetness and tartness, and I poured a glass of chilled milk to enjoy with the snack, appreciating how simple ingredients from the market could be combined to make a healthy and satisfying treat, and while eating, I thought about the upcoming shopping trip and the items I would need to replenish, such as rice, lentils, fresh herbs, and seasonal vegetables, and I made a mental note to check for any new fruits or vegetables that might be in season, knowing that seasonal items often taste better and are more affordable, and after finishing the snack, I washed the dishes and stored leftover fruits in airtight containers to keep them fresh, while placing vegetables in the refrigerator to preserve their crunch and flavor, and I realized how proper storage and organization after shopping makes cooking and meal preparation more efficient and enjoyable, and later, I decided to try baking a small batch of muffins using butter, eggs, sugar, and flour, adding some chopped strawberries to make them more flavorful, and as the muffins baked in the oven, the sweet aroma filled the kitchen, making it feel warm and comforting, while I prepared a cup of tea to enjoy once they were ready, and when the muffins came out golden brown, I arranged them on a plate and tasted one, savoring the soft texture and the fruity sweetness, and I felt satisfied knowing that ingredients carefully selected from the market could be transformed into something delightful, and I reflected on how shopping, cooking, and enjoying food are all connected, each step adding to the pleasure and satisfaction of daily life, and as evening approached, I prepared a simple dinner of sautéed vegetables with rice, seasoning them with cumin, turmeric, and fresh coriander, while slicing some fruits for a light dessert, appreciating how every step from selecting fresh groceries to cooking and finally eating creates a rhythm that nourishes the body, stimulates creativity, and brings small joys, showing that food and shopping are not merely tasks but a continuous cycle of care, planning, and enjoyment that makes daily life more fulfilling. Thank you so much to each and every one of you for spending your time with me today. Your support truly means the world, and remember, every small step you take in learning English brings you closer to your goals, so keep practicing, stay consistent, and never give up. If you enjoyed this session, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Progressive English Learning, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Also, make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you.